Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of whatever this channel's turned into. I just beat Undertale for the first and I guess second time over the last weekend, and if there was ever a game that proves how imperfect and ultimately worthless the science of critical review is, it's Undertale. I don't think there's a single game in the history of video games that's ever been universally accepted as objectively good, except maybe. So why do people like me even try to put our thoughts out there in a video like we're the ones who get to decide if a game's worth anyone's time or money? What it comes down to, I think, is that we just like to share the things that we like. And I like Undertale. A lot of people don't though, and I mean like tons and tons of people don't. Even though I've noticed that every single person that trashes Undertale in the YouTube comments always has like spelling and grammar mistakes. Just saying. So for the other 3 people out there that haven't played this game yet, we're gonna try our best to give you an idea of what to expect if you're thinking about giving it a try. Like always, we'll rank each part of the game from the worst to the best, and then give our own personal score at the end. Alright, let's do this. Last place goes to the visuals. If there's one thing that contributed the least to my enjoyment of this game, it would have to be the visuals. Although, thinking back on it, the first thing that I ever found intriguing about this game when I first saw some of its art back when it was released was the main character's face. I don't know why. There's just something so curious about the completely flat and sleepy expression on this little person. Can't stop looking. All the other characters have great designs too, and watching their portraits shuffle through a bunch of different facial expressions during conversations never gets old. I gotta mention too, the creativity of the enemy and NPC designs are pretty awesome too, and the fact that it's all made with relatively simple pixel artwork somehow makes everything a little funnier or creepier or whatever they were trying to go for. So even though everything has simple design, it's pretty memorable at the same time. I knew the moment I saw Flowey's face contort into an expression of pure madness and hatred right at the beginning that this game was gonna do a major number on me. The weakest aspect are that the backgrounds of a lot of screens don't have a ton of eye-catching detail or points of interest going on. It helps that there's always a bunch of stuff to poke around and examine, and it's almost always accompanied by a funny little description of what you're looking at. But the strength here lies more in the writing than in the actual visual presentation, at least in my opinion. So pretty much what I concluded is that exploration isn't rewarded as much with something cool to look at as much as it is with just an amusing quip or pun. And some of the hilarious and stupid non sequiturs had me laughing out loud, so I mean, it's not all bad. I can understand some people being turned off by how sparse and simple the graphics are though. Last place goes to the visuals. In 4th place is the music and sound. During my entire playthrough of Undertale, there was only one single thing that I thought was bad, or more I guess like, was wrong with the game. And it's not the music. Even though it seems like everyone else likes the music a little bit more than I ended up liking it, I still think that it's pretty freaking good. As is evidenced by the fact that I'm still listening to it on repeat as I write this review, and go out for walks, or switch it over to the battle theme whenever I need to go to the bathroom. It ranges from emotionally moving to tense to gentle and even kind of funny sometimes, all without a bad track on the whole playlist. So yeah, the music's really good. If you're like me and love the classic melody-driven feel of ever-looping catchy JRPG soundtracks, I think you'd like Undertale's music a lot too. And the one thing that I think is actually kinda just bad about Undertale, like I mentioned before, and it's the tiniest nitpick in the history of picking nits, or however you'd say that, is that there's a noticeable lack of sound effects. And while Undertale is already bursting with small details and personality, I think a huge opportunity was missed to bring in a little more charm with it. I mostly noticed it in battles during enemy attacks. Like, almost none of the enemies' actions ever were accompanied by a sound effect, but I also kind of noticed that there was a lack of sound effects out in the field as well. I always think back to Bowser's or Kefka's laugh and stuff like that that really leaves an impact and is a memorable calling card for characters or different moments in games that I love. And in Undertale, it felt like something was missing sometimes, and not really in an artistic or deliberate design. I feel like the developers just kind of missed in that department. 4th place feels right for the music and audio. The story gets 3rd place. The more I play this game, the more I want to go over to the wiki and read about all the deep lore that isn't readily digestible during a 1st or 2nd playthrough. And the more that I read about it on the wiki, the more that I just want to go back and play the game some more, and it's like, I'm ready for the 15-book long novelization whenever you're ready to get on that. Thanks, Toby. But while there's a lot of extra junk to read about and learn about, the story at its surface level is kind of just a nice little message about friendship and kindness. If I had kids, I'd totally sit them down and have them play this game to learn all about the importance of friendship, and then force them to beat Sans before they could eat dinner. I wouldn't do that. I might. Undertale's so good at giving story moments and emotional weight too, and by the time I beat the first boss of the game, I already started to feel the accumulative guilt that would build up throughout the rest of the game, because I just knew that I was about to make a whole lot of regrettable and unavoidable decisions. And all of these moments only get better if you decide to give this game another playthrough. I feel like this is a good time to mention too that each playthrough will last maybe 3 to 4 hours, so don't let that intimidate you away from trying it like it did for me for a long time. This is the kind of game that you would love if you want to get totally absorbed for a while in extra reading and weird lore and all kinds of fascinating stuff that lurks beneath the surface. If you don't though, and prefer a more straightforward story that keeps a straight face while being told and takes itself more seriously, it probably won't hold as much weight for you, and that's totally fine. The story gets 3rd place. In 2nd place are the characters. I'm still just sitting here trying to figure out how I could get attached to a character so fast that not even 15 minutes into the game, I'm already like on the verge of tears as I have to fight my way through one of them. Undertale's effect hinges entirely on whether that connection is made between you and its character. And they're all so easy to love that for me, it was easy to just buy into what they wanted me to feel for them. They are pretty simple as far as characters go, but totally endearing with maybe an exception or two. By the end, I found myself wishing I could have gotten to know each of them better, which is probably just proof that they're super good. But I feel like the game could have been just a little bit longer, and if each character had a couple of even really small moments of development or whatever, I really think that the game would have only been better for it. Like an extra 20 or 30 minutes of content is all that it would take, I think. Pretty much every single character is thrown into relentlessly funny situations, and while the humor can sometimes feel similar from one joke and character to the next, it's executed super well. Some of it feels like a product of the early internet, just straight up random sense of humor that we all thought was funny back in middle school, which got to be even too much for me sometimes, and like, we're talking about me. But even if the punchline isn't the best, the way each joke is implemented into its context is so clever that the payoff is almost always perfect anyways. How you decide to play Undertale makes a massive difference in how each character is perceived, and whichever route you decide to go down the first time will only make each person's development that much more meaningful and strong when you decide to give the game another playthrough. It's totally worth it to see all of these guys again in a brand new context. So yeah, I like the characters. Oh, well, almost all of the characters. One in particular, I just hated, I can't stand. If you're willing to sift through all of the jokes and stuff, you'll find that there's a surprising depth to each one of them in this game. They're all funny, but they've got some pretty heavy baggage too. The characters get 2nd place. And 1st place, of course, goes to the gameplay. I don't know if that's a controversial choice or anything, but it was by far my favorite part of this game, and it changed entirely the way I thought about it. At first, I felt pretty lukewarm towards the gameplay. I thought it was kind of a quirky and fun idea to combine bullet hell elements into fights and to dodge enemy attacks and stuff, and it definitely kept it a lot more active and engaging as opposed to regular turn-based combat. But after a while, I started feeling underwhelmed, like I was just poking the game with a stick saying, hey, do something funny again. I'm getting bored here. I mean, as far as turn-based combat goes, it was still pretty fun and unique, but I didn't feel that magic spark that everyone else seemed to about this game until I figured it out. Going for the pacifist ending makes this game like a billion times more awesome. Once I stopped using violence to win all my fights, honestly, everything good about Undertale got amplified by like seriously a million times. And all of a sudden the game turned from something kind of quirky and different into something I don't think will ever quite be replicated, no matter how hard anyone tries. It's kind of like listening to Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time, and just kind of being overwhelmed at how audacious it is, but still being enjoyable on its own merit. merits at the same time, and not just because it's different. Honestly, figuring out all the different ways you have to approach each different enemy type was so much fun, and it stays fresh through the end of the game because the encounter rate is so low and you never get bogged down by fighting the same enemy over and over and over again. Undertale constantly plays around with and completely shatters the fourth wall too, kind of just warping or ignoring entirely the reality of the in-game logic. Like, one of the bosses destroys a battle menu option with an attack as the fight starts. It's so good. There are a handful of puzzle sections thrown in too, which are all pretty easy, at least I thought, and I'm pretty dumb. But yeah, Undertale strikes a pretty good difficulty balance. All in all, it's an easy game, but the strength of the game wasn't ever really meant to be its challenge, but just how unique it all ended up being. It's all the way fresh. Stay fresh. So yeah, a few years ago I saw a lot of people giving Undertale their personal Game of the Year awards. And while I don't think I would've for the year 2015, I finally see why so many people fell in love with it. I mean, even Yahtzee gave it his best Game of the Year award, even going so far as to say unambiguously good things about it. Yahtzee! What? I feel unoriginal giving this game such a high score, a high 8 out of 10, even using our newly adjusted scoring system where the 5 is a perfectly average and playable game. But I can't give it anything lower. I just really like it. Hopefully we gave you a good idea if it's something you'd want to try too. And if you choose to, I hope you like it as much as I did. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Come hang out with us on Twitch sometime and talk about this game or whatever else you want. See you next time.